If you've been hanging around the Halatian Isles, you may notice that something stinks in the lands of the Viamontians. There's somewhat of a rift. To the north of Corcosi Island is the ungraciously named Trader's Island, whereas on Corcosi Island, you will find the impressive walled fort town of Sanamar, as well as the Royal Hall. Trader's Island is home to the town of Cillian, which doesn't seem to have much going for it. Or does it? Welcome to the Abyss, folks. My name is Void Money, and today we'll be taking a look at the Viamontian rebels with the Eleonora's Heart quest. Now, the first thing I need to state before we dust off here is that this is the first quest in the Whispering Blade quest line. But before you can even think of joining the Whispering Blades, you need to prove yourself a friend of Cillian, and in so doing earn the title Friend of Cillian. There are a couple of ways to get to Cillian. First, there's the easy way, take the town network portal in the annex. Then, there's the lore way. Find your way to the house at 72N61.4W in Sanamar. And you'll see a Viamontian guard named Loresi Dimaki. If you speak to Dimaki, he'll say,
I know I'm taking a grave risk in talking to you, but I must follow my conscience. There is a town on the island north of here where the rebels of Belanas make their home. They call this place Silyun. You can find it at these coordinates. Go there. Speak to the grandmother. I think she will convince you, as she did me, that the rebels of Silyun should be aided in their rightful struggle against the king. If you would like, I could sell you a portal gem to Cillian. 1 V-note is all I ask, as a gesture of goodwill.
If you hand him a V-note, he will indeed give you a portal gem to Cillian. Use it, and you'll arrive in the center of the sparse town, next to a bunch of cows. You'll also notice there's a larger building in town with a lady standing on a second-story terrace. She is titled Grandmother, but her real name is Elgenia Montani. Speak to her with an open mind, as Dimaki suggested.
You are a stranger to Cillian and owe us nothing. Even so, I beseech you, listen to me words, and help me heal an old man's grieving heart. The Duke's daughter, Eleonora, was a proud and noble warrior. She led our people to many great victories in the war against Ferici, but her skill was not enough to hide her from the king's vengeance forever. Before the Fion barrier dropped, before we even knew of the existence of life stones, Eleonora fell in battle against Ferici himself. He took her to his torture chamber and murdered the poor girl. When he delivered her body to us, we were horrified to learn that he had removed her heart. The Duke has not been the same since that day. His grief knows no end, but if we could retrieve that young warrior's heart, I am certain that his grief would begin to subside. Journey to the Royal Hall of Sanamar, enter the torture chamber, and put an end to this tragedy. But I warn you, if you do this, you will fall out of favor with the Grand Knight of Sanamar. He may well treat you with the same enmity with which he and his king have long treated us.
I mean, falling out with the Grand Knight, that sounds more like a favor than a threat. So why the heck not? On a side note, rulers who rip people's hearts out of their bodies don't really have a good track record. The last ruler of the Shang dynasty in ancient imperial China had his uncle's heart ripped out of his chest while he was still alive. This kind of thing is generally frowned upon in society, at least when done so brazenly. The more you know, right? In any case, head back to Sanamar, either by running there like a stubborn mule, or take the town portal network and trudge over to the Royal Hall. If you make your way around the outside of the building, but inside the walls, you'll come across a green portal for the Viamontian torture chamber. Inside, you'll find some Viamontian torturers, which can be pretty tough depending on your level. If you're struggling with them, you may want to come back with help, because the Viamontian executioners deeper in the dungeon are even tougher. But in any case, after descending a level, you'll find some empty cells, and then another tunnel with a fork to the right and left. Going to the left will bring you to more cells and a dead end. But in one of the cells is a note titled Eleonora's Note. You'll need lockpicking to open the door, so if that's a problem, you can just skip this part. If you do have lockpicking, pick it up for some extra rewards later. In any case, the note reads,
They have tortured me for days, yet they ask no questions. I am sure they plan to kill me. I miss my father, I miss Viamont, I miss Ispar, but I regret nothing. Though I am sure I will not live to see daylight again, I believe in our cause. People have a right to freedom. Those of Richi's ilk must be cleansed from the world, or else there is no justice. Father, if this note somehow finds its way to you, please do not give up. And remember, I will always love you. Eleonora du Beleness.
Pretty sad stuff. But yeah, just crumple it up and throw it in your backpack and continue on. If you return to the fork and go the other way, you'll find a looping section of the dungeon with 3 NPCs locked behind bars. These NPCs have nothing to do with this quest, so we'll ignore them for now. But worry not, we will come back to them someday. Now, as I said, this part is looping, but if you go past the first set of cells in either path, you'll come to a stairway that goes down to 2 more cell doors. Both of these doors go deeper into the dungeon, to another looping section, but the door further to the east will bring you closer to the torture chamber key. Just keep cycling through items on the ground till you notice it, and work your way to the room where it's lying and pick it up, because you'll need it to complete the quest. If you continue through the dungeon, heading mostly south, you'll come to a locked door with the final looping section that contains 5 Viamontian executioners. Do what you will with them, but among the executioners you will find Eleonora's heart, sitting on a pedestal in one of the rooms. Pretty grisly stuff. Pick it up before heading out to the surface port. And with that, the dungeon is cleared, and you never have to return. You can return for those unlucky sods we left behind if you so please, but that's for another day. Heading back to the Grand Mother in Cillian, we can hand over our quest items. If you hand over the note, the Grand Mother will say,
This note, Eleonora's last words. This will mean much to the Duke. I thank you, friend.
And she'll reward you with a decent fire-resistant shield called the Cool Deer, as well as 7,500 experience. Now, if you hand her the heart, she will say,
You are a most kind and generous soul. I knew that we could count on you. You are welcome to stay in Silyun as long as you like.
And with it, you'll be rewarded with the Friend of Cillian title and 30,000 experience. Hey, it's not a facility hub quest, but it'll do, if for no other reason than just having access to a title that's a little more interesting than Adventurer. In any case, that's it for the Eleonora's Heart and Friend of Cillian token quest. We didn't find out anything about the Whispering Blade this time, but we're one step closer to joining the faction. If you made it this far, I would implore you to give this video a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Otherwise, check out the video popping up on screen right now if you enjoyed this content. Thank you so much, friend. Take care and stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.